Hey, everybody, and welcome to MFSN The Hub. I'll be hosting today. I'm Casey, and I'm joined by the always ever present, ever knowledgeable, best in the business, Ross the Boss. Ross,
Hey
say hi for me.
everybody, Ross the Boss here, coming live from Lala, California. And yeah, we're talking about tight ends, and we're going to give our favorite tight ends and also tight ends you should stay away from. So we'll give a whole list of busts,
Yeah, I
surprises.
usually get those wrong, though, don't I, Ross?
Once in a while, you're usually pretty good in football. Baseball's a different story. We'll talk about that.
Baseball, I have given some bad busts over the years. All right, so tight ends, not typically known as one of the power positions, but they, over the last few years, have developed some pretty elite fantasy providers. We're not gone are the days where your tight end was primarily a blocker. Now we have a lot of tight ends that are pretty much just glorified slot receivers. And because of that, we're getting some guys who are probably maybe even second round picks, definitely third round picks every year. So what we wish Dr. Dan the best in his travels today. He's supposed to be joining us. I have his list here, but Ross, I want to hear your list first. Give me your top five, because I think 1 through 4 are going to be pretty similar, and then it might
Yeah, I
change a bit.
mean, one is going to be a consensus number one, probably worldwide. I don't see him dropping to two anywhere. Is Brock Bowers of Las Vegas. You have him number two?
I do.
Wow. Now I'm shocked. Brock Bowers is number one consistently every week. He has at least 60, 70 yards. At least he is good for maybe a touchdown. Vegas is bringing in a new quarterback, which I'm sure will like Brock as a target. Vegas does not have like a really number one receiver, so I think Brock enters that catalog as a number one. All being said, Brock Bowers is my number one. Two, Trey McBride. I again, Kyle Murray kind of scares me because he's not the most consistent passer in the league, but for some reason he does find Trey McBride. I'd like McBride a lot. And then I'll go with Kittle as three. Kittle to me plays in an offense that uses a tight end, and he has huge games, and he has games where he doesn't play that great, or sometimes he's out. He gets hurt. I mean, he'll take some games off. I mean, he's not consistent enough. So I'm not drafting him that quickly just because of that fact. Ford, I love this guy. He plays in a high potent offense, a team that I think is probably all around the best team in football. I know you think the Eagles are, but I think the Lions are. Sam Laporta, I love this guy. I know he didn't have the greatest year last year. He was hurt, but he came back. But I think he's going to have a big year this year. I just feel they're going to target him a lot. And then five, I'll go with old reliable just because I think this is his last season. I think he'll have a big season this year. Is Travis Kelce? Last year he's very disappointing. People took him way too high, but I think Kelsey's going to come back. I think he'll have a good year. I think he'll be Mahomes' favorite receiver this year, and I see him having at least 1,000 yards. Which being said, I mean 1,000 yards back in the day, case they used to play 14 games in a season. Now it's 17. So having 1,000 yards isn't that hard to do as a receiver or as a running back to get 1,000 yards rushing. But I mean, it's still pretty good. But it's not like the feat it used to be. But Travis Kelce is my number five. Casey, what's your top five?
Well, I'll read Dan's first. Dan kind of agreed with you. 1, Brock. 2, Trey McBride. 3, George Kittle. 4, Sam Laporta. At number 5, he put Mark Andrews. I don't even have Andrews in my top 10 this year, but
I don't either, and we'll talk about that a little later because I'm not. I took Andrews off all my lists, but keep going.
So our top 4 are pretty consistent, although I have McBride as number 1
Wow.
and Brock Bowers as number 2, Kittle as number 3, and Laporta as number 4. The reason I give the edge to McBride isn't a knock on Brock Bowers at all. I mean, last year Bowers had 112 catches for 1194, but McBride had 111 catches for 1146. So he was like right with him the whole way. The difference was Bowers caught a few more touchdowns than McBride did. But Arizona didn't add anybody on offense. They
Right.
still just have Marvin Harrison and whoever they're going to throw out there at running back. And Kyler Murray needs a second receiver. Whereas the Raiders, not only did they add two rookie wide receivers in the draft in Jack Beck, who a lot of people love, and then Dante Thornton Jr., they added Ashton Genty. And Ashton Genty's going to be a workhorse. He's going to be, and he's also a receiver out of the backfield on top of just being a great running back. And I'm not saying that it means Brock Bowers isn't going to be as good this year, because in all honesty, I think Bowers might be the best tight end in football. I'm not denying that, but I just think that I think McBride's going to have more opportunities this year than Bowers. I think he's going to have a higher usage rate. And considering last year, there was a 1 catch difference and a 30-yard difference between the two of them. It only takes 5 or 6 or 10 fewer receptions for Bowers, whereas McBride keeps his production level, and he's your top. I mean, McBride averaged 15.2 points per hit fantasy game last year, whereas Bowers averaged 15.5. So the difference was marginal at best. And neither of them, by the way, to get to number 3, averaged the most points per fantasy game, and that was George Kittle at 15.8. And
Right.
so,
but he missed a considerable lot. He missed a few
well,
games.
and that's why I have him listed as a bust as well, and we'll talk about that later. Is
Yeah,
because
I
of the
mean,
injury. But George Kittle now, Brock Purdy no longer has Debo. Ayuk's coming off an ACL. Who knows if he'll be ready for the start of the season? Juwan Jennings just got hurt and is demanding either a trade or a contract. So there's a lot of disgruntled and inconsistencies and instability in that wide receiver room, which means if Kittle can stay healthy, which as we all know is a huge if, he could easily be number 1 at the end of the season. My number 5 is different than yours. I have Kelsey down at number 8. We already talked about Mark Andrews. Neither of us have him in the top 10.
No.
I'm putting Hawkinson at number 5. And the reason is the same reason why I like JJ McCarthy this year. That offense is pass heavy. Hawkinson is a year removed from his injury. Remember, it took him 4 or 5 games to get his feet underneath him last year when he came back. And JJ McCarthy's a young quarterback. He's going to need that security blanket. And I just think Hawkinson is going to be that guy for him. I love Jordan Addison. Obviously we love JJ, Justin Jefferson, but I think when he needs to get rid of the ball quickly, you're going to see it going to Hawkinson quite a bit. And Hawkinson has showed the year before what he can do in that Minnesota offense. So I have him at number 5.
I like that call. I'm worried about JJ McCarthy. I want him seeing. I want to see what he does in a professional uniform before.
Sure.
We'll talk about receivers, but I still have Justin Jefferson as one of the top 2 receivers in the league in fantasy. So
yeah, he's proven he's quarterback
top
proof.
2. Yeah. It's like 1 and 1A. You know what I mean? That's how good he is.
And that's how I feel about McBride and Bowers, by the way. I'm saying if I had to pick today who's going to finish more points per game, I'm saying McBride. But if the difference is less than a full point per game, you can't go wrong. That's 1 and 1A, and they're so much better. And you talked about Kelsey. I have him down at 8, only because, he's 36. And you said it, he had a down year last year, but people don't realize his down year was still 12.2 points per fantasy game. Like that's how good.
Still good. It was.
That's how good he was. How high.
I know.
But if that receiver room, I know you said Mahomes' favorite receiver is still going to be Kelsey, but Rashee Rice is back. Hollywood Brown is there. Xavier Worthy is there. So there are pass catchers.
These are all guys that would not draft. If I did, they'd be like second.
I think Rashee Rice is draftable. I'm not sure about.
I wouldn't. I don't trust him going to Rashee Rice every week consistently. I don't. So we'll talk about that when we talk receivers. I don't want to talk about Rashee Rice, but other tight ends, Casey, that I think will have good years. I like this kid from Penn State, Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
I feel that the Colts, I don't know who's starting quarterback. It's either going to be Richardson or your guy.
Daniel Jones, baby.
Daniel Jones be one of those two. I think if I had to guess, I would say Daniel Jones, but I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter. But I think when you have quarterbacks like that, I think they'll look for the tight end more because, again, these guys need to be consistent and can't throw interceptions. I think tight end's a good place where you don't throw interceptions that much. So I like that. I like Tyler Warren. Jonnu Smith, he's a Steeler. He had a great year last year with Miami, and the Steelers traded for him. They're gonna use this guy. They're not gonna trade for somebody and not use him. So Geno Smith is somebody else I think is going to have a good year. Tucker Kraft of Green Bay. He had some huge games last year. Then he was just like invisible. But I think if he stays healthy, he got hurt last year, another guy. But I like him a lot. And somebody that I have on my list, just because last year they used him a lot, and that's the reason I'm fading Mark Andrews, is Isaiah Likely.
Wow.
I think Isaiah
in your
Likely,
top 10?
I have him 10. I think he'll have a good year with Baltimore. I think they're trying to fade out Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews might be traded by after preseason. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know if they want to keep Mark Andrews on the team because of his salary, but we'll see. We'll see. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that Isaiah Likely is going to get a lot more reps and a lot more receptions and be involved a lot more in the offense than Andrews. That's my theory. I gotta have some theories, in case I'm.
Hey, I love it. You got to think outside the box to get that edge.
And I know you're not a big Dallas Cowboy guy. I'm not either. But Jake Ferguson of the Cowboys, I feel Prescott's coming back. He'll have a good year. If Prescott can stay healthy. I think Jake Ferguson's going to do really well as their tight end.
Okay.
I liked him last year.
But it's interesting. It shows it says a lot about tight ends when your top 5 are pretty consistent, but the next 5 you're going to hear from Dan's list and from my list, like that they can just be completely different.
Let's hear Dan's list real quick.
Dan has, he had Andrews at 5. 6 is Hawkinson. 6 is Kelsey. 7 Hawkinson. 8 Evan Ingram. 9 Tucker Kraft, and 10 Dalton Kincaid. Now, for myself, at 5, I had Hawkinson. If you remember, at 6, I put somebody neither of you talked about, and that's David Njoku of Cleveland. Just because Cleveland has no wide receivers. If Joe Flacco is the starter, which at this point it looks like he's going to start the season as the number 1, Njoku averaged almost 20 points a game in the 5 games he started with Joe Flacco. So he likes him. He knows him. They're familiar with each other. And then even if it's one of the rookies, again, I go back to my JJ McCarthy and TJ Hawkinson argument. There's not an elite wide receiver. If they need to get the ball out quick, your tight end can be your quick release. And I just think Njoku has a good shot there. Number 7.
2 years ago, Casey, 2 years ago, he was like his stats, he was like a top 3 receiver stat wise and fantasy wise too. He had an unbelievable year. Then last year he got hurt and he was hurt almost the whole season. But again, I'm not drafting any Cleveland Browns at all on any.
Right. I'm saying this, especially away from their running backs, but we're talking tight ends. Number 7 for me, I agreed with Dan, although he had him at 8. I think Evan Ingram is a smart play. He's in Denver now.
Pick, yeah.
Bo Nix, as we all have learned last year, is a trustworthy quarterback. And there's really only Courtland Sutton in front of him in terms of targets. They have rookies, RJ Harvey and somebody else who are going to be their running backs. So Bo Nix is going to need somebody to get the ball to. And I think Evan Ingram, if he can, again, stay healthy, that's the caveat over everything, right? Is such a reliable, safe target that I think his target share alone could get him 70 or 80 receptions with 5 or 6 touchdowns. And that puts him in the top 10 category. Number 8, Travis Kelce, still a safety blanket for Mahomes, especially in the red zone. He might become a little more touchdown dependent than he's been in the past. But you still got to think of him as top 10. Number 9, I went with Colston Loveland, the rookie for the Chicago Bears. Look what Ben Johnson did with Sam Laporta's rookie year. And you're not going to spend a top 10 pick on a tight end unless you have a plan for him. And Ben Johnson wanted him enough to take a tight end in the top 10. And that is good enough for me in terms of meaning the potential's there for him to have a really successful rookie year. They still have Cole Kmet, but Cole Kmet is not the elite kind of tight end prospect that Loveland is. And then number 10, I agree with you. I went Tyler Warren, the rookie out of Penn State, just because living in Central PA, I saw Penn State play a ton. This guy can do it as a wildcat quarterback. He can run the ball out of the backfield, and he's a monster in terms of catch radius and contested catches. So I think I would rather it be Daniel Jones. I think he's more trustworthy. But even with Anthony Richardson, this guy is a monster and finds a way to get the ball. If they can get the ball to him, he'll come down with it. So that's my number 10. Who are some sleepers? Who are some guys we haven't talked about that you think are value for players to look at if they miss out on some of those guys?
I'm going to say somebody I'm sure you have on your bus list, but I think with the quarterback change, I think every year we always say his name is tight end. He always fails.
But I have him as a sleeper also, Ross.
This year, I think he's going to do it. I feel it. Again, don't draft him high. Don't take him to take him later because he'll be available. It's Kyle Pitts.
Yep, I have him.
Atlanta, and you and I stopped drafting him a couple years ago. But this year with Penix as the starter and him needing a tight end to throw to when he gets in trouble, because he's not going to throw the ball deep and get picked. He's going to throw the tight end. I think Kyle Pitts could have a decent year. I really do. Yeah. And I think if you want to wait on drafting a tight end, I think Kyle Pitts could be a great pick for you. I think in all said and done, I think he can be a top 5 tight end in fantasy. So I like Kyle Pitts. Another guy that I'll just say it, and if I said his name to 100 people, people would not guess what team he's on, is Brenton Strange of Jacksonville. Brenton Strange, I feel
another Penn State tight end.
I think that with Lawrence as tight end, Lawrence as their quarterback, I think he's going to use the tight end more this season. And I think Strange showed a lot of promise last season. He had some good games.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this year, I think he can do it. So those are my 2 sleeper guys that no one's going to really talk about. They'll probably put more on the bus side, but I'm going against the grain. I'm saying Strange and Pitts. Who do you
I'm
like?
with you. I put Kyle Pitts as a sleeper value pick for me too. And I'm going to name somebody who was retired last year as my other one, and that's Darren Waller. Darren Waller was traded, even though he's retired, but he was still under contract with the Giants, to Miami. And people forget, that's where Jonnu Smith came from. And Jonnu Smith was one of the most productive tight ends in that offense last year. And so I just think Waller steps into that role where Smith was getting almost 7 targets a game with Miami. And he's also back. The offensive coordinator there in Miami was his tight ends coach with the Raiders when he was arguably the best tight end in the game. I'm not saying you can draft him high and rely on him, but if I'm looking for a second tight end late, let's say I drafted somebody who I have either injury concerns with, or it's a rookie who I'm not sure if they're going to explode out of the gate, I love Darren Waller. I just think in terms of value late in the draft, he's going to be great. Dan ironically listed Brenton Strange as one of his sleepers. And on the value side, he also added Dallas Goedert and Hunter Henry. So,
Hunter Henry, it's always every year he has 1 or 2 big games and that's it. And Dallas Goedert, I like. It's just he gets hurt a lot. He goes down for 4 to 5 weeks a year. He's out of it. He's not playing. So I'm staying away from Dallas this season. I'm staying away from him totally. I'm not even going to talk about drafting.
Yeah. Henry, look, he's got a young quarterback in Drake May. He had 7 outings last year where he averaged over 12 points per game from fantasy. Yeah. So who knows? But so on the bus side, I listed 2. I listed George Kittle, who I talked about, just because you have to probably use a 4th round or 3rd round pick to get him. And he could miss 7 games just as easily as he could lead the league in some offensive category. And I listed Mark Andrews, because I agree with you. I think Isaiah Likely is taking a more pronounced role, and Mark Andrews is going to be just touchdown dependent if he stays with Baltimore. Who do you have as a bust?
Dalton Kincaid. They do not pass to the tight end that much in Buffalo. No offense to any of the tight ends there, but it's just I had Kincaid last year. And also had their other tight end too, and none of them really get the ball that much. They go to the receiving core. Josh Allen does not really think of the tight end that much. Fairmouth's another guy that's going to be kind of more of a blocking
Especially now
tight
that Jonnu Smith is there. The problem is, do they cannibalize each other in terms of their ability to be fantasy relevant?
They'll want a 2 tight end set, and which is fine. But I think Jonnu Smith is a better receiver, better hands, faster, and I think that Rodgers will get him the ball more. That's just my opinion. But if you're drafting Fairmouth thinking he'll get the same amount of receptions he did last year, it's not going to happen because they got another guy. And then, I'm thinking who else David Njoku I don't like either. I don't think he'll have a big season. I'm staying away from every Cleveland Brown possible. I think they're going to be just horrible this year. And I think that they'll implode. And we'll see I think a lot of their players fantasy wise are not going to do that well. So stay away from Brown players if you can.
Yes. So anybody we didn't talk about, Ross, we did a pretty exhaustive list there.
Just for 10 team leagues, we totally cover it. 20 team leagues, we came close. There's the bottom of the barrel guys, but you don't have to draft those guys. The guys
no, there are some tight end, like emphasized leagues or 2 tight end leagues, and then you can start talking about guys like Zach Ertz.
You'll be able to pick up like the Higbees and people like that on waiver wire.
Jake Okonkwo, Mason Taylor, Mike Gesicki, those types of guys.
Yeah, all those guys, they'll all be available on waiver wire. There's no reason to draft those guys. Zach Ertz, even like Hunter Henry's going to be available on waiver wire. It's a 10 or 12 team league with 1 tight end. Yeah. So I think we're good with tight end. If you can, I feel it's a big advantage if you get a top tier tight end. I think it makes your team a lot better.
Yeah, tight end is somewhere I'm not waiting till it's too late.
See, I don't think so either. I used to wait, and then I always felt like by the middle of the season, I'm saying I kind of wish I had a tight. I'm trying to trade for a tight end who's actually doing something.
Yeah,
and then the person that has them,
especially with the Trey McBrides, Brock Bowers, George Kittles of the world, they produce as well as a wide receiver 2.
Yeah,
so even a wide receiver 1. So
I think. On tight end, this is the last thing I got to say about it. I think Bowers is going to be drafted like in the 1st or 2nd round, maybe early 2nd, late 1st, let's say.
Yeah.
But then Trey McBride is somebody who's going to be drafted like 3rd or 4th round. I don't think he'll go 2nd. And I just think because he doesn't get the press that Bowers gets, I think you can probably wait and get McBride, who you feel, and I feel also, they're very close. So strategy-wise, maybe it's a good idea to get a Trey McBride in the 3rd or 4th round. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if you drop, and like you said, Kittle, I'm not jumping up and down about Kittle because I'm worried about he gets hurt every year. He's like in the luxury box.
Back issues tend to be chronic. So
it's the same thing every year.
All right. Well, Ross, as always, thank you for dropping the knowledge. I'm sure our viewers appreciate it. Again, to our viewers, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the video. As always, like the video if you can. We love it when you do that. Hit the little bell for notifications. And next week, Ross and I will be here on Tuesday at 4:00 with our waiver wire for the remainder of the baseball season. And then on Thursday, I think we're probably going to talk running backs if I had to pick, but we'll let you know. All right, guys.
Running backs.
Have a good weekend. May the weather be sunny and bright where you are, and we will see you next week.